Hello, welcome to Tony's Bonsai. I've got here a blackthorn. I collected it this spring, I've never done any work to it, so let's have a quick look and see if there's something that I can do to get it on its way. I've had some really good success collecting hawthorns, silver birch, oaks, lots of stuff. But blackthorn I've found extremely difficult, and this is really the only one over the last sort of 18 months. My last sort of 2 collecting seasons that I managed to keep alive, and it's not the best piece of material, if I'm honest. First thing first, I've got a dead branch here that needs to be removed. I've got a nice branch below it that's growing nicely, so I'll take this off. And there's a nice branch in its place. I've got a branch lower here, and I do have a branch over here that I think will become the new leader. I just rotated the tree round so that we can see kind of the back of it, and it's easier to see where this kind of branch comes up, and it does form a natural new apex to the tree, and I think this will have to be removed. I could possibly look at air layering this up here, but I've heard blackthorn are really quite a difficult tree to air layer, and I'm not surprised because I have struggled, as I say, keeping them alive. Again, there's some branches on this new apex that haven't made it, so I'll just take these off, just really to give me a better opportunity to see the structure and what I'm working with. So I'm just taking off these dead branches. Then I can make an informed decision, which is what we want to do in bonsai. I've got a nice young fresh branch here. I suppose my first question is this worth keeping? I don't think it is. I think I'll cut it back to this bud, to this little branch. That's a lot better there. It's a bit hard to see, but now I've cleaned this top up, I can see that it is quite clunky around this top section, and I'm not really sure that that's going to really be much good for the future of the tree, so I'm taking that top piece off. It's got to go, that. I've got a nice branch here, and I've got another branch here. Either of these could potentially work as sort of the new top of the tree, so I'm going to cut back to the top of the 2 there. Nip off that little dead branch, and I'm happy with that. I think that works well. As the new top of the tree. My next thoughts are these branches here. Obviously this one at the top, if I'm going to chop the trunk off here, this won't be in the design anyway, so I don't need to do anything with this. But these two, I think I'd like to add some movement to the lower part of the branch, just to add some interest. Seeing as it's only one piece of wire, I'll not do a fast forward on this. This looks like 2mm, possibly 2.5mm wire, and as I've said before, I like using a thicker gauge than you might see some people using, because I just think it allows me better control. I wind it round. I'll take it round that new leader. And the other thing is, thinner wire is okay if I want to put an S shape into this, into these branches. but I want to get the movement in the base of the branch. I think this is quite important, and this is one of the big lessons I learned off the Tony Tickle videos when he's talking particularly about hawthorn. And I really subscribe to this idea, is that we want to get the movement into the base of the branch. It's not about getting movement into the ends of it, because ultimately I'm going to cut the branch down to create taper. It's about getting movement into this section. So I've applied the wire with a very loose coil because I want to be able to leave it on and I don't want it biting in too much. And because I've used a thick wire, I can get away with a loose coil. I don't need it to be super tight. And this is another advantage, I think, of using a slightly thicker gauge wire. It means I can afford, especially with deciduous trees, you know, I can afford to be loose with it. So now that wire's been applied, I have to decide what I want to do with these branches, bearing in mind I have to forget that this is involved. So the tree naturally comes up, comes across, and this branch, although it's on the inside of a bend, I think it's okay, and I want to do something fairly dramatic with it. I'm going to take it right down towards the camera and back up. So I'm making that just quite visually interesting, and it's three-dimensional as well because it is moving towards the viewer. I'm calling you the viewer, towards you. Now, what do I do with this one? I think this one can come back towards me, and I'll just bring it sharply backwards and then up. So I want it different to this one. And again, the movements in the first couple of inches. This one, I put the movement, see, really, I think even this one, the movement should be more severe, closer in. And that's just a bit of interest for that branch, I think. Yeah, I quite like that. These ones higher up, as I say, I don't need to worry about those. And I certainly won't worry about this one, because this one will just be allowed to grow on to become the new apex of the tree. Will I end up air layering this down the line? I might have a go next year. I'll have to see how I feel. Alternatively, I might just chop it. I'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to work on another tree now. I think there's a spruce that it's pretty ill looking and it needs some refinement's the wrong word. Probably just needs half of it cutting off. This is a little spruce I picked up from a garden centre 12 months ago, and I put some movement into it with wire. I was quite happy with it actually, but I just presumed it was dead. It didn't come out in the spring. All the leaves fell off it last year and I just thought it was gone. However, it has produced some new growth, so I've got a renewed confidence, but there's quite a lot of old dead branches that need to be taken off. Stuff like these are long dead and need to be removed. I suppose they don't need to be removed, but it's hard for me to decide what to do with the rest of the tree when there's so much of this kind of dead stuff on it. This at the back's got quite a big ugly kind of lump here, which I don't like. There's a lot of the growth is on this, and I do know that, but you know what? Let's get rid of that. I didn't like that. I don't like this branch here either. Let's get rid of that. Ah, that's better. Nice bit of taper. I'm cutting this back to some buds, so hopefully they kind of bud out and this becomes the new tree. Get rid of these dead ones up at the top. So anything that's looking dead is going. I'll apply some cut paste to this the larger cut. And I'm quite happy with that. I think that looks a lot better. I think it's got some nicer shape and structure to it now. Looks more like a bonsai tree to me, potentially in the future anyway. The question is, will it survive? Who knows? I thought I'd finish this video with an update on this azalea. I was fairly brutal with this plant when I did a big chop on it a few weeks ago, and I didn't know if it had survived, but it's pushing loads of new fresh growth, which is great. And finally, I've got a liquid amber, also known as a sweet gum. It might be an American sweet gum, I don't know. I bought it over the internet, $9.99. It's made it, it's growing nicely. But my question is, can I do an air layer on one of these? Will it be successful? And also, if I do a trunk chop, will it sprout from lower down? You know, are these options with this variety? Have any of you out there ever experimented with this species of tree? If you have, I'd love to hear in the comments how it's gone for you. Other than that, if you've enjoyed the content and you want to see how these trees progress, hit subscribe. Otherwise, have a great day, and I'll look forward to seeing you on my next video.